And our student representative, Ms. Morales, will lead us in the flag salute.
Salute pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Julie Beechner,
Here.
Joe Marcano,
Here.
Mary Little,
Here.
Jose Gonzalez, Lori Eskew,
Here.
James Robinson,
Here.
Lori Cisneros,
Here.
Violeta Marisol Morales,
Here.
Anaí Valencia.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Adoption of the agenda, item 1.4.
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any discussion? Any opposed? So ordered. Approval of the minutes from December 17th, 2023. 24, I'm sorry.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So ordered, thank you. I see that we have a full audience again tonight, so thank you for coming, and I anticipate that many of you want to speak on the Ten Commandments, which I appreciate. I think tonight, we usually have like a 20-minute allotment of letting people speak, and my thoughts tonight are to say, if you want to speak against that proposal, I will give you 15 minutes. And then anybody who wants to speak pro, because there were some people that wanted to speak last month on that, and they were not able to come to the podium for some reason or another, and I'm not sure why. But again, I really want to make sure those people that are here tonight that want to speak in favor of the proposal get that chance. So if we do 15 minutes for opposed, you could have like 5 speakers speak 3 minutes apiece. And we'd have the other speakers, because I don't think there's going to be that many. So you would, again, have the majority of the time. Is that agreeable with the board?
With me.
Yes.
Okay. So
Is it
thank you.
15 minutes each side? Is that
Well,
what it is?
15 minutes for them, and because that would probably be the most time that they would have. I don't think there's that many that are going to be speaking in the favor of the proposition.
Most of the people that were there were pro.
That's fine.
Because we heard your discussions, we heard your arguments last month, and we listened, and we are open to it again, to listening to you again. But I really don't, and many of you came to the podium and saying, well, I have nothing new to say, but I'm going to say this and this and this, and we heard repeat a lot of the same arguments.
Trustee Little, do you know how many speakers we have tonight?
We have 17 speakers, but I wouldn't know who was in favor or who was against.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So you're thinking 15 minutes total. How do we decide who speaks during that time?
Well, if you're here to speak in favor of that, can you raise your hand? So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
6 or 7? There might have been one in the back. No?
No,
Okay,
I
6.
think there's only 6.
Okay.
Is there overflow tonight? No.
And then how many that would be, how many on the other side that want to speak?
Trustee Little, might I make a suggestion?
Yeah, so again, we would have so many just a minute.
Sure.
We would again have so many on the opposite side, and it would take quite a bit of time.
I think that possibly in the interest of equality, since we allowed 2 minutes last time, if we do 2 minutes this time, that would be about 34, 35 minutes. So perhaps that might be a way to get through all the people who wish to speak, no matter what side they're speaking.
So we have 17 cards. What's the pleasure of the board?
I think anybody that came to speak has the right to be heard.
I agree with that.
And if
And
we-
2 minutes
with that?
seems,
Yeah.
yeah. Last week, we had 33 speakers, and we gave everybody 2 minutes. I know that some of it is repetitive, but it is a new meeting, and some people are tuning in for the first time,
Mhm.
so let's give everybody the opportunity to speak and be heard.
Did you say 2 minutes?
Yeah.
I think that's fair. I mean, our rules according to the agenda are 20 minutes per topic, but we haven't followed that ever, so we might as well,
And that's in your favor.
allow everyone 2 minutes.
2
I think that
minutes.
would be fair.
Is that acceptable by the audience? So, all right, we'll do that. Thank you. At this time, we will start the presentations for the audience.
Okay. Inder Paul Singh.
Just before you speak, and if there's anybody here that does not get called, please let us know. And if you were denied saying that you got here too late or something, please let me know as well. Thank you.
Growing up, I believed God was a man who sat in the clouds and watched over everyone. It wasn't until I became a freshman in college, digesting religious texts in Punjabi with Professor Jawaharlal, that I began to understand how this idea of God had been shaped, not by my faith, but by institutionalized teachings of the U.S. Education Board. For us, God was not a man in the clouds, but rather everything around us, an energy. Throughout elementary school, I learned about Joan of Arc, Jesus Christ, and Moses. I was taught about Christmas, the Holy Spirit, and the Trinity. But nowhere did I find my heroes, my warriors, or religious figures who shaped my identity represented. I remember reading just one line in a history book about Sikhs, calling us mystic Muslims, or reducing us to stereotypes like towel heads. This system is why, even at the most prestigious public university in the country, UC Berkeley, I meet countless Punjabi Sikhs who still believe God is a man who sits in the clouds. This belief system doesn't come from Sikhism. It's a byproduct of an education system dominated by Christian narratives. You're perpetuating the same Christianity-centered approach I grew up with in our public schools 10 years later. You're indirectly erasing the cultures, religions, and ideologies that don't align with the majority's worldview. This is not education. It's a covert form of cultural and religious genocide. And it flies in the face of a principle taught in every single school: respect. The hypocrisy is glaring. How can you expect students to respect their teachers and leaders when you as a board fail to represent their identities and respect their identities? Commandment 1. I don't even need to describe the disrespect. Let me just read it out for you. You shall have no other gods before me. If you want to hang up the commandments, hang up Hindu texts, Sikh texts, Buddhist texts, and Islamic texts, which all teach us to be better human beings. I leave you with one simple question. Is it possible to advocate for good human values without labeling them as the 10 Commandments? And I provide you with one simple answer. Absolutely. Let's do better.
Jagmeet Singh.
Good evening, esteemed members of the board and Kern County residents in attendance. The First Amendment of the Constitution of this country states, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. The proposer of this policy seems to have forgotten a key principle in the founding of this country, the separation of church and state. This is a clear precedent set by the founders of this nation. Any policy passed by any elected body which would directly contradict the First Amendment of the Constitution is treason. And I say that with my whole chest, treason. I see only two solutions to the 10 Commandments proposal. The first being unamendable bylaw be added to the Kern County Board of Education that no religious items be displayed in any educational institution which receives public funds. The second the second option would be an unamendable bylaw be passed that every single world religion would have their items displayed in classrooms. Of course, all of these items would be subject to the approval of religious leaders represented by each faith to ensure fair and equal representation. If the board members are against this sort of proposal, we would ask those to make public statement why. The passage of this policy requiring the Ten Commandments presented in every classroom without the same consideration to other religions would constitute a direct violation of the inalienable constitutional protected rights of Kern County residents. A proposal to consider any religion in our Kern County classrooms, including my own religion. I'm a Punjabi Sikh, by the way, and I don't believe that my religion should be taught in any classroom to any child. Especially when 55% of Kern County students did not meet the English language arts standards set by the state, and 83 did not meet the mathematics standards. 83%. We are focused on the wrong things here. It should be considered treasonous and unpatriotic, and it's a direct insult to the founders of this nation that an elected body would consider such a policy that violates the First Amendment of the Constitution. This is the separation of religious and public institutions is a right of every American. Students in Kern County represent a diverse background and are proud of their chosen faith. But if they want to learn more about their faith, they can do so in student organizations or religious institutions, not in classrooms. There is no such thing as a good faith discussion in classrooms.
Avneet Sandhu.
Good evening, members of the board. The separation of church and state is one of the foundational principles of our nation. Yet today we're discussing a policy to put the 10 Commandments into public schools. Why should we undermine and spit on the legacy of our own founding fathers, while supporters of this policy would say to promote morality? Yet they don't understand that the first commandment, "You shall have no other God before me," is not about morality. It's about teaching students religion. Teaching students religion despite the fact that it's not related to the text that they are learning within the educational system. The reality is that even the moral text and the moral commandments, like "you shall not kill," are not something that is foreign to the ideologies that are taught anyway. They are part of every single religious framework we look at, every single moral framework we look at. So the question is, what are we truly adding to the educational system by adding the 10 Commandments into schools? The answer is simple. Nothing. And anyone who would say contrary to this fact is sorely misguided. We already teach principles like the Golden Rule: treat others the way you want to be treated, kindness, respect, empathy. I learned these principles from my educational system. I did not need the 10 Commandments to know that I shouldn't kill someone. That's something already taught to us. It's a framework we are provided with. The only thing that we are doing today is adding something unnecessary and something religiously guided. The school board has an obligation to every single student in every single classroom from every single different religion. And the reality is, by putting a policy like this in place, you are misguided. You are stating to those students that their beliefs don't matter, and there are only one belief that matters. I mean, it's stated right there in the first commandment: "You shall know no other God than me." So what about those students that don't believe in that God? I urge you not to allow these 10 Commandments to be put up in publicly funded schools. Thank you.
Reverend Angelo Frazier.
Excuse me, whoops. Hopefully you can hear. I'm reading this letter that's from the National Association of Christian Lawmakers, and it's to the trustees. He's been aware that the Board of Education is discussing this issue, and I'm trying to leave this small. He's writing to advise the National Association of Christian Lawmakers supports the Kern County Board of Education adopting a policy to display the 10 Commandments in public school and encourage the teachers discuss the impact, they're not teaching it, discuss the impact that the Decalogue has had upon Western civilization and American jurisprudence. We would be happy to appear in person. Okay, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, developing a policy that should meet all legal requirements for your school district to begin honoring the 10 Commandments as an important document in the historical and moral foundation of law. The NACL is a national association of Christian elected officials serving as at the local, state, and federal level of government in the United States. And then it goes on to say about where they have members and how many members and so forth. Passing legislation, ordinances, or policies that would allow for the display of important historical documents, including the 10 Commandments. The national model law is based upon legislation that was sponsored by Representative Dodie Horton of Louisiana, who serves as our NACL vice chair in her state. The NACL members and other elected officials are already filing legislation in their states to do the same, and we encourage leaders in the state of California to follow suit. Since the U.S. Supreme Court threw out the so-called lemon test in the 2022 Kennedy versus Bremerton School District case, there is absolutely no barrier to Ten Commandments posters or U.S. national model posters declaring In God We Trust from being displayed in public schools or public buildings. This is made clear in this exempt from a publication published by First Liberty. Made clear in these. Okay. Government displays of religion. Before Kennedy, some government displays of the Ten Commandments were found lawful. Some were found unlawful. It was the same with cross displays as memorials to the fallen. Whether a display would survive an Establishment Clause challenge was unpredictable, and courts handed down inconsistent results. Perhaps the most telling example occurred in 2005, when the U.S. Supreme Court on the same day upheld a 6-foot, multi-ton granite Ten Commandments monument that sat on the state capitol grounds in Austin, Texas, but struck down a paper copy of the Ten Commandments that hung on a wall in an eastern Kentucky courthouse.
Thank you.
Under Kennedy, bolstered
Do
by
you
the
have, do you have much more? Time's up.
There's a lot on here.
Okay,
We can just submit this.
you can submit it.
Okay. I have my own comments that I was going to make. I've been a teacher. I was a teacher of first grade. Are we out of time?
That, unless you were going with, for some, were you going for
My time?
Frazier, or were you going,
I was going for him.
so you still can go then on your time?
Well, that person is not a resident of Kern County, so I don't think
That's not relevant, sir.
I think it is, as a Kern County judge.
No, well, you don't decide who gets to talk.
I was patient for you guys.
We didn't go over time.
I was here last time.
Okay, be polite, please.
Ma'am, can I get your name, please?
Sheila Lake. I worked in the Violin School District for 3 years as a first grade teacher, then as an ESL teacher, and finally as a migrant research teacher. I worked on my master's degree in bilingual education for a year at CSUB before having my son, my firstborn son, and my second son was because of seizure disorder, spent the majority of his schooling in special ed classes. My reasons for having the Ten Commandments displayed in public and private schools is personal to me. In 1962, prayer was legally removed from all public schools. And 7 years later, in '69, I was attending college when riots broke out in protest of the Vietnam War. The bank building in Isla Vista was burned, and my college roommate's friend was shot and killed by the National Guard. Anarchy reigned. During this time, there was a protester speaking from a free speech podium on the campus, trying to incite the crowd to burn down the ROTC buildings on campus. I went to the microphone and vehemently spoke up since my brother was serving in Vietnam, and my uncle, working in the university, was a Korean War veteran who had his eye shot out in that war, fighting for the rights of other people's freedoms and endowed by God. In '73, we had Roe v. Wade, and so we went on to that freedom of whatever. I've got a lot here, and so then fast forward, 26 years later, the Columbine High School shooting happened, and there were 13 students shot and killed. Since that time, 14 more school shootings have happened with a total of 169 deaths, not counting other mass shootings in public places across our nation. This never happened when I was growing up. All kinds of things have been going on since then. Unwed pregnancy, drug use is epidemic, along with suicide rates. My granddaughter just had 2 girlfriends commit suicide in November. Fentanyl deaths are now common. I know of several people who died by that. My question is this: which of the commandments is dangerous? You shall not murder, you shall not steal, you shall not lie, give false testimony, blah, blah, blah. The other ones, yes, the first 4 are about God, but it doesn't say which God, and we're not teaching about God. We're just posting these things that are, moral law. Finally, the 4th, and the Sabbath commandment. That's, it's about, honoring the Sabbath, the day of rest. Well, hello, we don't even do that anymore, because over in Europe, where I just came from, they still close up on Sunday because it's a day of rest and a day of contemplation. There are many organizations that have a moral code that must be agreed to becoming a member. The military, the Civil Air Patrol, the Boys and Girl Scouts. However, no student is being forced to even read or obey the Ten Commandments, just like they aren't forced to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. These rules or laws are the foundation of our Constitution and Western civilization. Did you know that Praise Be to God is inscribed to the capstone of the Washington Monument? In God We Trust is written over the southern entrance of the U.S. Capitol. An image of the Ten Commandments is engraved in bronze on the first floor of the National Archives, where the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution are displayed. Ben Franklin proposed the constitutional knowledge of the providence of the Almighty God to obey His will, and Thomas Jefferson himself warned the new United States to never forget that their liberties are a gift from God.
Thank you.
I will submit this.
Thank you.
David Sponholz.
Good evening, board members. Thank you for your service. My name's David Sponholtz, and I've been attending school here for 20 years when I first moved to Bakersfield. And I'm in favor of the 10 Commandments being posted in the classrooms or in the schools. I think they're an important historic document, one that is the foundation of our civilization around the world, not just in the United States, also the founding documents of other countries and law. The Magna Carta, the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, any document that displays freedom is important. And I would also like to remind people that the Christian faith developed education. Harvard University was a theological school. Oxford University across the pond. Different schools have been formed from the Christian foundation. Now, most of them are secularized. And it's not a bad thing. The 10 Commandments can help, but I don't expect a minister to be there teaching them. If a student has questions, they can ask their parents, they can ask their religious leaders. But to have them post, I don't think would be a great harm to the student body. It wouldn't have harmed me. I went to Frontier High School. I know a lot of the students and stuff and teachers there who didn't share their faith, but you knew they were religious on their own personal time. They never influenced us. So I would leave it at that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Michael Pollock.
Let's talk about two different ways people think about right and wrong. One way is vertical. In a vertical system, rules come from someone in charge, like God, a leader, or another authority figure. The idea is if you break the rules, there are consequences, sometimes harsh ones. Some interpretations of this system suggest that the person or figure making these rules is above them, because how else would you be able to hold someone under you accountable for them? Now, there's another way of thinking about right and wrong, and this is what we call a horizontal system. Instead of focusing on rules from above, we focus on how our actions affect the people around us. In this system, we make choices based on empathy, caring about other people's feelings and well-being. It's not about fear of punishment. It's about trying to do what's right because it helps others and makes the world a better place. For example, you're at a bank and you're making a deposit. You notice the teller makes an error in your favor of too much money. Now, in a vertical system, you'd be afraid of getting caught or lying, cheating, and stealing because you're going to get fined out. But in a horizontal system, you think to yourself, well, if this teller makes an error, this could cost her job. And so you do the right thing. For different reasons. You don't steal or whatever. But which one is more meaningful? Which one is more impactful? A vertical system often emphasizes blind obedience to authority, while a horizontal system encourages you to think about how your actions affect others and make choices based on kindness and understanding. Which system did Jesus teach? Matthew 7:12 and Luke 6:31, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. In other words, Jesus taught a horizontal system that was based on how one treated others. In fact, this system, most commonly known as the Golden Rule, is found in almost all religious texts such as Christian, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, Judaism. Research shows that learning to care about others and make thoughtful decisions helps children grow into adults who think for themselves, understand other people, and take responsibility for their actions. Not because they're scared of punishment, because they value doing the right thing. And I think that's what we want.
Sarah Frost.
Thank you, members of the board. There was some concern at the outset of this meeting about there being lots of repetition. I'm not going to say the same thing I said last time, but I just on a logical basis, we don't need a lot of reasons to explain why this is a bad idea. We just need a few really good ones. And the fact that there was a lot of repetition just shows that there's a lot of members of the public who think that this is a bad idea. The reasons against are that it's unconstitutional, it's a waste of resources, and it alienates and creates division among students. From what I can gather, the reasons in favor of posting the 10 Commandments in schools has a lot to do with folks' individual feelings, their faith, and then twisting ourselves into contortions about while this is a religious document, it's also a cultural document. It's a document that teaches ethics. We all know that that's a fig leaf. That's not why this board is considering it. If members of this board are thinking about it in those terms, they're either lying to us or lying to themselves. The practical outcome of this is that it will waste money and take resources away from students. And if members of the board have so much belief in the good outcome that this could cause, I would ask if they'd be willing to put their money where their mouth is. And if this decision loses money for our schools, are they willing to foot the bill? Thank you.
Karina Gallardo.
I'm also here to speak in opposition of displaying the 10 Commandments in classrooms or any school settings. Politicians or political school officials should not have the power to decide when and how students engage with religion. They should not be imposing their beliefs on students or faculty in public schools. Religious freedom in America is the right to choose one's faith without pressure, and it is also essential to our American-like democracy. And students attending school should be staying focused on learning, on curriculum that's already been approved and that is not religion-based. And this is like a distraction to students as well, and it's just preferring one religion over others, and again, I think it does have a way to create more conflict in classrooms between students and faculty and whatnot. This policy would also be in violation of the state constitution, the Education Code of California, and also public funding should not be used for religious matters for public schools. And if we really wanted to improve the environment of our students and our school in general, we should be looking at increasing budgets for what is actually really necessary to have positive impact for our students, such as like increasing counseling services, having better healthcare services on campus, providing comprehensive sexual and reproductive education for all grades, hiring more faculty, supporting students that are struggling with housing, supporting our LGBTQ youth, making our immigrant students feel safer as well. So there's more important matters at hand, and that could actually be a more positive impact to students instead of working on this.
Jess Sanders.
Our country was founded on Judeo-Christian beliefs, which is why our country has lasted as long as it has. The Ten Commandments has always been a part of our country. It was set up for our laws. It was brought in. I'm sorry that the Punjabi think it's bad, but I don't remember them being at this founding of our nation. I don't remember any of.
Please keep your comments to yourself, please. Be respectful.
So they do need to separate things. Resources. They're not teaching that that is a religion. That's some laws that's been in our in our founding fathers' documents. I do believe we need not to indoctrinate people, using our resources to indoctrinate people, which is why I was here against a lot of the perverted books we have in the library here. Those are indoctrination tools that our money shouldn't be spent on. So I believe we should move forward with the Ten Commandments because it is history. And I don't believe our schools should go out of their way to change history. It is history. Whether you like it or not, it's history. It happened, it was there. It's history. Teach it as history instead of trying to rewrite it in some other body's view. Thank you.
Brian Russum.
Good evening. Members of the board and speakers who are advocating to place religious symbols like the Ten Commandments are not being truthful. They claim that they are not Christian nationalists who want to abolish democracy and replace it with a theocracy. Local pastors who have endorsed the election of Christian nationalists to our local school boards have been caught on video that I have seen, admitting that their aim is to make every public school a Christian school. Trustee Lori Cisneros has been seen dressed as a cowboy alongside the Oklahoma State Superintendent of Schools, applauding their illegal Bible lessons and placement of Christian imagery. Trustee Jim Robinson has publicly advocated in his candidate statement that he wants to teach curriculum in the classroom that is that has a Christian or biblical perspective, whatever that means. Angelo Frazier has appeared before this board wearing a dress or a nightgown, I don't know what he was wearing, some sort of costume, advocating for religious symbolism and Bible lessons in our public classrooms. This is Christian nationalism. Recognize it for what it is. They claim that the Bible, the Ten Commandments in particular, are historic documents. They are not. Where is the history or laws passed by Congress that prohibit worshiping false gods? What American war has been fought over remembering the Sabbath day? What president has been elected by promising to punish people who speak the Lord's name in vain? That one in particular would go against our freedom of speech that we enjoy here in the United States. Which American groups or movements arose to oppose the coveting of our neighbor's wife, house, ox, or ass? None. If you want to look at history, take a look at our long history of separating church and state. Put that in our classrooms. I urge you, the trustees, to recognize this blatant attempt to violate our sacred Constitution, beginning with our schools, because that is what their plan is, to start the Christian nationalist movement in our school system.
Thank you.
On
Your
our
time is
school
up.
boards,
Thank you, sir.
by establishing
Thank
a
you, sir.
national religion, and establishing a national religion has been the downfall of many a country.
Can I respond a few words?
You're not,
You got 2 minutes.
well, he already had somebody speak for him.
She was actually supposed to speak for herself.
Oh, she was.
Yeah.
And she's got up and spoke for you.
Yeah.
I'll allow it.
Thank you. Chairman, President, and trustees, thank you for allowing me to address the board this evening. As I've said in previous visits to this chamber, our Judeo-Christian heritage evidence etched, engraved by symbols and structures across our states and federal buildings across this land. The ones that I am most familiar with are the ones from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., where I was born. Our history is our history, and believers as well as non-believers have benefited from this. The Attorney General from Kentucky is leading a coalition of attorneys from Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Iowa, Indiana, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, Ohio, South Carolina, South Dakota, and Tennessee, and Texas, Utah, and West Virginia in regards to the Ten Commandments. And so just today, South Dakota put forth a bill that will require Ten Commandments to be in public school. Russell Coleman, the Attorney General, said this: from our founding documents, the establishment of the rule of law, the Ten Commandments is, excuse me, let me start again, from our founding documents to the establishment of the rule of law. In the United States, the Ten Commandments influences American history has been undeniable. Passion without truth is destructive. Passion guided by truth is instructive. Right is right, even if no one's doing it. And wrong is even if everyone's doing it. I want to thank you for your consideration of these matters. I will continue to pray for you and this country. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dennis McLean.
Oh, you're good.
Will you respond because we were directly referred to as well?
No, thank you. It was because he didn't get to speak.
Good evening, Superintendent, President, and trustees. The state of California is in total disarray. We have failed leadership with too many rules and regulations that have destroyed our freedom and our way of life. Government positions and school programs are centered around DEI, CRT ideology, not on proven merit qualifications. Current preventable wildfires are a result of poor decision-making as well as mismanagement of our land and water resources, not climate change. Now it is, excuse me? Now is the time to reinstate the Ten Commandments in our children's classroom as a historical document and to reestablish the education of our students on the fundamental nation principles of our nation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anna Camejo.
Officer, he just made a vulgar gesture.
Okay, we're not gonna do that. Here, stop. The adults. Take a seat, old man.
If you don't want to be respectful, you can leave the building, please.
Hello, good evening. My name is Ana Cornejo, and I am a proud public school educator with over 10 years of experience. And I was also honored as a Kern County Teacher of the Year, so thank you for that, District Honoree. Thank you, but I'm not here to talk about my accomplishments. I am here tonight in solidarity with all faiths and keeping an inclusive classroom for all. I serve a school with a significant population of Asian and Sikh students, and I urge you to uphold the separation of church and state, to avoid discrimination, and to continue working towards making Kern County schools welcoming environments for all students. And so I urge you to please not allow the 10 Commandments to be posted in our public school classrooms, and I yield my time. Thank you for your time. Good evening.
Thank you.
Rosa Lopez.
Good evening. I was here last month and I'm back tonight because this item, although most participants last month and tonight is still opposed to this proposal, this is still being pushed by a small group of people not aware of the realities of our students in Kern. I mean, instead of responding to the urgent need of our schools and students, like the terror and fear caused by the terrorist acts of Border Patrol in our community, or by ensuring that schools have resources they need to ensure students are learning in a safe environment, we are here tonight. We are here because, and not paying attention to the fact that students are afraid to go to school. Schools and staff are grappling with how to support what to do because families are being separated. I mean, we can't say we want to teach values and turn a blind eye to what's happening in our community and with our students. Students are afraid to leave their house and go to school. They are scared they won't see their parents when they get back from school. So instead of saying we want to teach values by adding 10 commandments, why don't you show up and show what values are? Demonstrate what your values are and not push a small group agenda. So let's stop this hypocrisy. Adding the 10 Commandments is not about teaching values. It's about, it's what speakers have said in previously, that it's a small group of folks feeling empowered and pushing the nationalist agenda. So let's provide what our schools and students really need to thrive. And if you say that we have values and we want to demonstrate that our values, let's show up for our community and our students.
Steve Bacon.
Good evening. For years, conservative political groups have attempted to post the Ten Commandments in public places. Recent legislation in Louisiana designed to post them in schools was declared unconstitutional by a federal judge in November. This decision will be appealed, of course, but advocates have turned to new strategies to circumvent First Amendment objections, like framing them as a significant historical document crucial to the education of our children. If we were serious about that, things that are much more important to the foundation of our country would be things like, there's lots of other documents we could post instead, like Declaration of Independence, Bill of Rights, Preamble, excerpts from Common Sense by Thomas Paine, excerpts from The Rights of Man, Washington's Farewell Address, the Gettysburg Address, John Locke's Two Treatises of Government, Rousseau's Social Contract, the Federalist Papers, John Stuart Mill. All of these are more significant to the foundation of our country than is the Ten Commandments. Now, since I think that's just the newest way to kind of get this forward, one of the other things we should consider is, what do the Ten Commandments actually teach our children? The first 3 or 4, depending on how you count them, are all about their relationship with God, which would violate church and state. The others are mostly, once you get past honoring your parents, they're mostly proscriptions, things you're not supposed to do, and they're limited to a very, very small number of activities, like how frequent is it that kids are going to commit adultery, how likely is it that they're going to kill, those sorts of things. If we were serious about things that might be helpful to our kids, we might think of something more prescriptive, like what are the kinds of things you should do. A good example of this would be something from the American Humanist Association called the 10 Commitments. And that would actually be far more useful to our children than the 10 Commandments. Thank you.
Reverend Nancy Bacon.
Good evening. I'm an ordained Christian pastor. I'm also a licensed marriage and family therapist here in Bakersfield. And what I want to say to you tonight is I love the Bible. I love the Ten Commandments. I see it as a treasure. And I know other people from other religions see their documents as treasures too. I think it's a great thing to teach at my church and to my children in my home, and I hope other people will do as well, just as I'm hoping other people from other faiths are teaching their children at home. But I do not want somebody else forcing their faith on my children or for my faith to be forced onto others, so I oppose the posting of the Ten Commandments. And furthermore, as a marriage and family therapist, I know that it doesn't make any difference what we post or what we say, it is what we do. And so if we're going to urge anything, children are smart, they see the hypocrisy. If our elected leaders are committing adultery, if they are killing, if they are lying and stealing, doesn't matter what you post or what you say. We need to urge our elected leaders to do better. Thank you.
Terry Maxwell.
I'm amazed we've come to this point. This is the Board of Education. You don't need any education on the fact that in the First Amendment, it says nothing about separation of church and state. It says that the government shall not establish a religion. And that comes from the fact that in England, there was only one religion, and they didn't like that. They wanted to be able to do their own religion things. And that it's a letter from Thomas Jefferson that made some reference to separation of church and state. He didn't advocate it, he was simply having a discussion. It's funny how we just can't even have a discussion anymore. That one side is adamant about it, but you know where kids really learn the most about hate, about understanding, about love, about acceptance? At home. I just wonder how many people in this room realize that everything they're saying to this board is a reflection of what they do at home. Is that what you're teaching your kids? I have seen what's going on in our high schools. Kids don't go into the bathrooms at lunch because there's gangs in there and they're smoking marijuana. They're doing some awful things. And I don't know, maybe we should teach them some principles about self-respect, about understanding others. And I would just ask people in this room, how many of you believe in climate change? That we're all going to die? And can any of you who do believe in climate change, can you explain to me exactly how we're all supposed to die just because the temperature is going up? Because my understanding is that as the temperature goes up because of CO2, we have more fertile land, we use less water, things are greener, and we can feed everybody in a much better way. Yet they teach that in the schools. Isn't that a religion? Because they're only taught one side of it. They're only taught that climate change is a big problem when we've got to solve it. There's never a discussion on the other side. So that's as much of a religion as anything else is. But I don't hear anybody saying, oh, they shouldn't be teaching climate change because it's not solved science. Thank you.
We don't have any additional speakers, Mary.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your comments. From now, we are,
The lady out there?
we have one more. Did we miss you, ma'am?
Yes, I came in late. I was at the district office.
Did you sign a card?
They said it was closed. Is it still possible for me to give a public comment like you had?
Yeah, go ahead and come on forward.
Appreciate it. Thank you. All right, we're late today.
Just state your name when you come up.
My name is Alyssa Jones, and I teach for the Kern High School District. And I'm here again to address decisions attempting to be made by this board. There is some unethical behavior that I plan to address. And to the people, as we can hear, you're gambling. It seems that you guys are eager to enter into these frivolous lawsuits and play with our students' money. Now, it is one thing to gamble with your own money, but you're not. You're gambling with the money that would go to my students' success. Now, I am a Christian. I'm proud of that. I'm also queer. And so it is upsetting, and it actually is counterproductive. By forcing my religion on others, they are going to repel against it. We are doing more damage by implementing these crazy policies, and it is only going to turn our students away from those values that we value. Not only that, but it's going to open us up to the Church of Satan getting involved if we choose to pursue this. This is opening us to lawsuits. This is gambling. And I fail to see how this is anything other than that. I'm glad that the ACLU is here. I remember when they were here protecting my freedom of speech rights as a journalism student. They're extremely capable, and sadly, a lot of our journalism programs have been defunded, and many of our students' voices have been limited by that. I'm feeling pretty apathetic, especially with the outlook of this board. I'm seeing influences by the Pacific Justice League. I'm seeing influences by church organizations that are too involved in politics, like Rock Harbor and Canyon Hills Church. Okay, if we are going to lead our students, if we are going to teach them our values, we need to do that with our actions. We need to do that by listening. We need to do this ethically. And so I just encourage the board to dismiss all of this nonsense with the 10 Commandments and, act according to your values.
Thank you all for speaking and coming and sharing your opinions. I do value each one of you. We're going to switch on the agenda. We're going to go to item 3.2 so we can listen to our ACL councils speak at this time.
Thank you very much, honorable members of the board. I'm Peter Eliasberg. I'm Chief Counsel of the ACLU of Southern California, and I very much appreciate your willingness to provide me with the opportunity to present to you this evening on the legality of posting the 10 Commandments on classroom walls. I'm sorry I can't be there in person, but I recently had knee surgery, and that makes me unable to make the drive to be able to attend in person. By way of background, I've been a practicing litigator for almost 30 years. and I've argued cases involving the First Amendment's Establishment Clause, as well as cases under the California Constitution in California Superior Courts, federal district courts, the United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit, the California Supreme Court, and the United States Supreme Court. There are three main issues I'd like to address in my presentation. First, I will talk about the legality of any effort to post the commandments under the religion clauses of the California Constitution, which are different from and independent of the religion clauses of the United States Constitution. Second, I will address the legality of such an effort under the U.S. Constitution, given the existence of a Supreme Court case ruling that directly prohibits displays of the Ten Commandments in every public school classroom. And third, I will talk briefly about the very real financial and community costs that the county would face from litigation, which would almost certainly occur if this board votes to require the Ten Commandments be posted on the walls of every classroom. But before I get into these issues, there's a couple of background issues I'd like to address. The Ten Commandments are, of course, religious doctrine. They appear in the Bible and the Torah, which are the sacred texts for the Christian and Jewish religions. But there are different versions used in different versions of the Bible and the Torah. Nonetheless, all of them include language commanding that thou shalt have no other God before me, mandating observing the Sabbath and keeping it holy. These are religious precepts. They're not historical precepts, and they're not moral precepts. And there are many faith traditions in this country, such as Hinduism, Buddhism, and Native American religions that do not teach, recognize, or refer to the Ten Commandments at all. And even for faith traditions that view the Ten Commandments as authoritative, there are different versions depending on religious denomination or biblical translation. Thus, there are significant differences among what the Ten Commandments that Protestants look to, Jews look to, and Catholics look to. And in Kern County itself, as the board is well aware, there are a wide variety of faiths and beliefs practiced by its residents and students in the schools that vary from Protestantism, Catholicism, Islam, Judaism, Sikhism, Hinduism, and more. And there are many Kern County residents who do not adhere to any practice or faith. And all of these families have an unequivocal right to have their children attend Kern County schools free from infringement on their religious freedom. Now, shifting to the constitutionality issue, with respect to the constitutionality of posting the Ten Commandments in public school classrooms, you heard last month from Mr. Pfeffer from Pacific Justice Institute. But his presentation was more notable for what it omitted than what it included. Most important, he never even mentioned the California Constitution or the fact that it includes a number of constitutional provisions, including the No Preference Clause, the No Aid Clause, and the clause barring religious instruction in public schools that clearly prohibit any proposal to display the Ten Commandments on classroom walls. Combined, these provisions mandate legal protections that go above and beyond those provided by the religion clauses of the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. As one California Court of Appeal put it, quote, California's constitutional provisions are more comprehensive than those of the federal Constitution, and particularly so in the area of involvement of religion in schools. Posting the Ten Commandments would violate California Constitution's No Preference Clause, which guarantees the, quote, free exercise and enjoyment of religion without discrimination or preference. The California Supreme Court has acknowledged that the clause is a sweeping statement of the principle of government impartiality in the field of religion, and interpreted the clause to be more protective of separation of church and state than the federal religion clauses. Posting the Ten Commandments would violate the No Preference Clause in at least two ways. First, as I mentioned above, the Ten Commandments have religious significance for two religions, Judaism and Christianity, but they're not religiously authoritative to any other religion, and their principles about worshiping only one God are contrary to the belief of atheists and agnostics. Thus, posting them in every classroom clearly prefers two religions to the exclusion of every other religious belief, and any California court faced with this question would so hold. Second, the Jewish version of the Ten Commandments differs from that in various Christian Bibles, and there are different versions even between those used by Catholics and Protestants. So selecting a particular version of the Ten Commandments for posting would inevitably favor one particular religious sect over another, again, violating the Constitution's No Preference Clause a clause that Mr. Pfeffer didn't even bother to mention to you in his presentation. But that's not all. The California Constitution's no aid clause states that counties may not aid, quote, any religious sect, church, creed, or sectarian purpose. As the California Supreme Court has held, this prohibits not only material aid to religion, but any official involvement that promotes religion or otherwise provides intangible forms of prestige and power to one faith, or to religion generally. The California Supreme Court has recognized that the No Aid Clause also, like the No Preference Clause, provides additional guarantees that religion and government shall remain separate, far beyond what's provided by the religion clauses of the U.S. Constitution. And mandating the posting of an excerpt from the Bible, which is the preeminent religious text of the Christian faith, on the walls of every school classroom is an obvious form of government aid to religion. Moreover, courts have been clear that even if the government asserts a secular purpose for its conduct, such as saying, well, the posting has historical value or it teaches ethics, the No Aid Clause is still violated if the government's actions have the effect of aiding religion. Third, Article 9, Section 8 of the California Constitution, which is referred to as the No Religious Instruction Clause, again, a clause that Mr. Pfeffer didn't even bother to mention, states that, quote, no sectarian or denominational doctrine shall be taught or instruction thereon be permitted directly or indirectly in the public schools. This point barely requires any legal analysis because subjecting students to displays of biblical stricture across every classroom, even in a math class, a social studies class, or history class, is the very sort of religious inculcation that patently violates this clause barring religious instruction. Public schools may not urge students to consider biblical God, thy Lord, or instruct them that they shall have no other gods. Schools may not instruct students to keep the Sabbath holy or avoid taking the Lord's name in vain, or follow any of the other expressly religious dictates set forth in the Ten Commandments. It would not be a difficult decision for any California court judge to say that mandating the posting of the Ten Commandments in school classrooms violates this provision of the California Constitution. We know why teachers post materials on their classroom walls. Geography teachers hang maps. Chemistry teachers post the periodic table of elements in the aid of instruction. So too would hanging the Ten Commandments be seen by a court as a form of instruction in a religious doctrine that violates the California Constitution. So let me go to my second point about the U.S. Constitution. With respect to the protections of freedom of religion in the United States Constitution, Mr. Pfeffer once again omitted incredibly relevant and important information. He mentioned the fact that Louisiana recently enacted a law mandating that the Ten Commandments be posted in every classroom, but he neglected to tell you that in November 2024, as a gentleman who made public comment referred to, a federal district judge ruled that the law violates students' rights under both the Establishment Clause and the Free Exercise Clause of the First Amendment. Despite Dr. Frazier and Mr. Pfeffer's claims to the contrary, posting the Ten Commandments clearly violates the federal Constitution in a variety of different ways. First of all, nearly 50 years ago in Stone versus Graham, the Supreme Court struck down a Kentucky law that did exactly what the board is considering, mandated the posting of the Ten Commandments. The court concluded that it would unconstitutionally induce the school children to read, meditate upon, perhaps to venerate and obey the commandments. And decades later, even as it upheld the Ten Commandments monument displayed on the Texas Capitol ground, the court explained that the school context is radically different and posting the commandments in schools could not be reconciled with the court's long-standing special concern with compliance with the Establishment Clause in elementary and secondary schools. So Dr. Frazier continues to come here over and over again and talk about Moses on various federal buildings or the Ten Commandments on various federal buildings, never once pointing out that these are not public school buildings and that the court's jurisprudence is very clear that it has special concerns for impressionable school children and their susceptibility to coercion by the government. Now, some advocates have claimed that because Stone versus Graham cites what's known as the Lemon Test, and because the Supreme Court in 2022 in Kennedy versus Bremerton School District abandoned the test, Kennedy somehow made Stone no longer law. That's wrong. As the Louisiana Federal Court recently held, Stone remains good law. Kennedy did not mention Stone, much less overrule it. And Stone relied on cases that the court has never even suggested or to be overturned that bar school sponsorship of religious messages such as Bible readings and beginning classes with prayer. And most important of all, Kennedy's Supreme Court ruling reaffirmed that religious coercion of public school students is unconstitutional and that it remains problematically coercive for public school students to promote, for public schools, to promote religious messages to students who are part of a, quote, captive audience, unquote. Impressionable students gathered in public school classrooms via the state's compulsory education laws are, of course, the quintessential captive audience. They will reasonably feel pressured into religious observance and adoption of the county's favored religious doctrine, as well as feel pressured to suppress their own personal religious beliefs and practices to avoid potential disfavor and reproach from their peers and perhaps from public school officials. Now, during his presentation, Mr. Pfeffer acknowledged these coercion cases, but then casually asserted that they don't apply here. But he's completely wrong, because the coercion cases are all about government-sponsored religious practices in public schools, where younger school students are impressionable and school attendance is mandatory. So, in sum, with respect to both of these legal documents, the California Constitution and the U.S. Constitution, this proposal would clearly be illegal. But I think most important of all, there's been so much talk about what the U.S. Supreme Court would do with the federal constitutional issue. That wouldn't even come up because the California Constitution mandates a result that this cannot happen and would be deemed to be illegal by California courts. So I'd like to make two final points of caution on proceeding with this proposal. First, because the proposal would blatantly violate multiple provisions of the California Constitution, as well as the federal, any effort by this board to approve the posting would inevitably be met by litigation. In the past, I've seen government entities approve clearly unconstitutional policies because they believe that it will be cost-free, because they've been offered free legal representation by one or more legal organizations. I don't know if the Civic Justice Institute has suggested it has done that. Maybe it will later. But the reality is, even if this board were represented free of cost, those organizations will not pay the plaintiff's attorney's fees that will inevitably be due if and when you lose the case, and you would. Both state and federal law provide for government entities to pay plaintiff's attorney's fees when plaintiffs prevail on claims under the state and federal constitution. And to give just one painful example, a Delaware school district decided that it wanted to teach intelligent design in its science classes. They were sued. The court felt that intelligent design was nothing more than a dressed-up version of creationism, and the Delaware School Board ended up paying $1 million of attorney's fees to the plaintiffs in 2006 dollars, which would be about $1.75 million now. I don't think that the members of the Kern County community will feel good about the school district paying out $1.75 million on plaintiffs' attorney's fees when it could be spending money educating its students. Further, approving the display of the Ten Commandments in every classroom would unnecessarily foment deep religious divisions within the community, as you can already observe by the public comments. And the reality is that many students and families will oppose these displays, not because they're anti-religion, but because they hold dear the ability to determine their religious beliefs and practices for themselves in the confines of their homes, their churches, their synagogues, or wherever else they worship. And that's why in the Louisiana Ten Commandments case I mentioned above, the Baptist Joint Committee and other Christian groups filed briefs to the court objecting to Louisiana's attempt to co-opt their religion and decide which version of the Ten Commandments is authoritative. Jewish groups and other minority faith groups likewise filed briefs in the court. These groups and the plaintiffs in these cases seek to defend fundamental religious freedom rights and the enduring principle that our public schools belong to all and should be welcome to all, regardless of faith. Now, I recognize that I've made a number of legal arguments in this presentation over a relatively short period of time. I feel like I've become a law professor, something I never aspired to. But because there's so many things I've thrown out, because Mr. Pfeffer and Dr. Frazier never even mentioned the California Constitution, and perhaps this is not an issue that the board has thought about before, I will be pleased to submit a letter to the board that covers these legal points so members of the board can consider them in a less hurried fashion. Thank you once again for permitting me to make this presentation. I appreciate your willingness to listen to me.
Thank you, Mr. Elseberg. Just to clarify, Professor, was our council, was Professor Nancy Meyer going to be speaking?
Yes.
She's right here. Okay. I didn't know if that was on tape or here. All right, so go ahead and come on up.
Thank you very much for giving me time and giving me an opportunity to speak. There's a clicker here somewhere. Oh, excellent. Thank you. All right. So I am Dr. Meyer, and by background, I have a bachelor's degree in religious studies with an emphasis on comparative religion, a bachelor's degree in classics with an emphasis on ancient Roman culture and religion, a master's degree in mythology with an emphasis on depth psychology from Pacifica, a master's degree in religious studies with an emphasis on the Jewish war with Rome and the Dead Sea Scrolls. My PhD comes from Claremont Graduate University in Hebrew Bible with an emphasis on ancient Near Eastern history and archaeology. I have spent 25 years as a teacher, teaching everything from junior high school to graduate school. I am currently a professor at California State University, Long Beach in the classics department. My dissertation was published in 2022. Quickly, before you assume my thoughts on religion, and a lot of people make lots of assumptions about what I think about religion, please remember I spent 25 years in college and university collecting all of these degrees, all right? I became interested in religion, so I have actually been studying religion to some degree for 38 years. I have a profound respect for faith and for people of faith. For all people of faith and all different forms of faith, I have done some in-depth study of the vast majority of religious traditions and all major traditions. All right, I have a deep respect, and religion is part of the human condition. We cannot escape it. Going all the way back to the earliest Homo sapiens, we have evidence of religion. The Ten Commandments are not just ethical guidelines, as some people have noted, and I want to point out some of these points that you're going to put in these classrooms where Muslim students are going to be, Hindu students are going to be, Jewish students, et cetera, who may or may not ascribe to the Bible. This idea that you shall have no other God before me is a uniquely monotheistic statement and uniquely Judeo-Christian. And may I remind you, there are still plenty of faiths out there who are not monotheistic faiths. You shall not make for yourself an idol. Again, unique to monotheism and unique to Judeo-Christianity. You shall not bow down and worship these idols, uniquely monotheistic. I'm going to slip through these pretty quickly. You shall not use the Lord's name, make a wrongful use of the Lord's name. This is from the NRSV. Sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied. Unique to monotheism, again. I'm not even sure what this means, and there is a huge amount of discussion about what this means within Christianity and Judaism, so that itself is a problem, and again, it's unique to Judeo-Christianity. Remembering the Sabbath day and keeping it holy. There are multiple ways to interpret this, and I don't know a single Christian who actually abides by this, and very few of my Jewish friends actually abide by it. One notable exception was one of my professors at Claremont, Dr. Sweeney. If you sent him an email on Friday night, you were going to hear about it because he observed the Sabbath. And for Judaism, by the way, that's Friday night to Saturday night. You shall not covet your neighbor's house, your neighbor's wife, male or female slave, ox or donkey. There are a couple of issues here, by the way, and if you're going to put these up as ethical commands, you're going to have to deal with this. Number one, our daughters and wives' property, because that's exactly what this commandment deeply implies. Your wives, your donkey, your property. I feel like that's inappropriate for modern day kids, modern day ethics, modern day ideas. I do not consider myself someone's property. Second problem, of course, is that it says slavery is okay. Slavery is fine. So you're going to have to deal with those questions from students and hopefully from your faculty as well. What are you teaching about these? Right, so these are mostly instructions that are, like I said, unique to Judeo-Christianity. Obviously, the commandments for not killing, not stealing, not cheating, universal, but again, this is not something that needs to be covered within a religious structure. Your faculty and staff are not qualified to teach this document academically, all right, within their cultural and historical context. This is an Iron Age document, possibly with oral tradition going back to the Bronze Age, but even that is questionable. Its emphasis is on monotheism, which is a distinctly later Iron Age tradition. Judaism in the early Bronze Age and even in the early Iron Age is actually a polytheistic tradition, or arguably a henotheistic tradition, where they held one God above others. But if you look at the Bible very carefully, you will see lots of other gods being brought up there, including Asherah and Adonis also being brought up. And of course, Baal, everybody's favorite. If it's not taught from its context, it is being taught theologically. And anyone who is teaching them will effectively be evangelizing and proselytizing, which is highly inappropriate within a public school context. As was pointed out earlier, those students are a captive audience. They don't have a choice of being there or not. Did you want to add something, Peter? Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I saw his hand raised.
Sorry, I thought I was on mute, but I will make sure I'm muting myself. I didn't want to add anything,
Oh,
sorry.
okay. This is not a common law code, as also has been brought up. Oh, it's just another law code, and we're going to put it up there. This is not an example of a typical ancient law code. This has nothing in common with our first law code that we have, the law code of Ur-Nammu, Akkadian, from 2100 BCE, circa. It has very little or nothing in common with the law code of Hammurabi, everybody's favorite, circa 1750 BCE, and very little in common with anything coming out of Egypt, China, Greece, or Rome. So this is not common, and especially the theological portions have nothing in common with any of those law codes. It's not a foundational document for the United States. These are not foundational documents. If the founders wanted the 10 Commandments in the foundational documents, they would have put them there. All right? We are cherry picking things on monuments. We are cherry picking things within ancient American codes, much like I see a lot of people cherry picking the Hebrew Bible especially. If we're going to go back to those founding father ideas, we also have to talk about Freemasonry. On the dollar bill, we have that pyramid with the eye above it. Are we going to teach Freemasonic ideas? The founding fathers are also coming out of a period of the Enlightenment and Enlightenment ideas. They are not coming out of the Great Awakening, which was the Christian reaction to the Enlightenment. Enlightenment ideas include the pursuit of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. These are revolutionary ideas. These are the ideas we should be talking about. The founding fathers also, we keep hearing about the founding fathers being good Christians. They were not good Christians in the way that we like to think about them as good Christians today. They were Christian by culture. They only had the option for Christianity. They were never introduced to Islam to any great extent. They were never introduced to Hinduism. So calling them Christian is really a bad argument because they didn't have any other options. They weren't brought up in Jewish households. They weren't brought up with pluralistic ideas. And one of the reasons they founded America is because they were looking for and trying to promote that pluralism. And in fact, the reason that Independence Day is on July 4th, 1776 is because of numerology. So are we going to teach that? We can't just cherry pick history and choose the parts that we like any more than you should be cherry picking the Bible and choosing the parts that you like. I'm pretty sure most of us in here love bacon and a good cheeseburger, and those are very distinctly against some very basic parts of the Hebrew Bible, the Torah, the Old Testament, against the dietary laws. If you love a good shrimp cocktail, that's right out. Only fins and scales. So this cherry picking is intellectually dishonest. And we need to be honest about the holistic part of our history, holistically about the Bible, and the cultural and historical context of those 10 commandments, which you're also cherry picking, because I'm pretty sure you don't want to teach that slavery is okay and that women are property. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Let's take a 5-minute break. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you. We will now conclude with the meeting, and we are now on informational item 3.1, Jobs Plus program, and it's a presentation.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to introduce, okay, Desiree's.
Yeah, she's back
Oh,
there.
she's back there? Oh, she's just letting her staff do it. We wanted to talk to the board in regards to one of the programs, and it's in the Alt Ed program. It's called the Jobs Plus program, and we have Joe Cantu and Jocelyn, and I'm going to butcher the last name, I always do. Czars. Sorry. People butcher my name all the time too, so I know how you feel. They're going to talk to you about a really awesome program that we've had in the KCSOS Alt Ed program for quite some time, and we just wanted to make sure that you were aware of it, and particularly with the fact that our new student rep, who will be who started tonight but will be here representing next month, Mrs. Alencina, she will be a product, or is a product of the Job Plus program. So I'm going to turn it over to Joe and Jocelyn at this time.
Thank you very much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Joe Cantu. I am the Career Associate with the Kern County Superintendent of Schools in the Jobs Plus program. And I want to thank you for inviting us to present to the board about our program. Let me take this time to introduce my coworker, Ms. Jocelyn Casares, and she'll explain a little bit about WIOA.
Okay, so WIOA stands for Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, and what it does is helps those to succeed in the labor market that have significant barriers to employment, education, training, and support services. We are funded, our funding source is from WIOA, and we are sub-granted through ETR, which is Employees Training Resources, and we work with the in-school youth program.
Okay, what is Jobs Plus? Within our program, the Jobs Plus program targets the students that are on track to graduate the year of enrolling into our program within the alternative education. Within, we have career and job readiness workshops, which upon successful completion, they can earn paid incentives. Some of the workshops include harassment in the workplace, effective communication, workplace safety, time management. Also, in addition, our students have opportunity to earn industrial certifications and also get paid incentives for them, like forklifts training, CPR, food handlers, and high school diploma. When our students have successfully completed the workshops and earned the career readiness certificates, they're eligible to work with one of our business partners as a paid intern earning minimum wage. Some of our business partners within Kern County Superintendent Schools is the daycare facility, our central kitchen, transportation, M&O as a custodial, and our local coffee shop, Bakersfield Roasting Company.
Julie, we've just been talking about coffee, so.
It's actually a very good coffee shop on the southwest side. After exiting the program, most of our students have already graduated and will either be employed or have transitioned to post-secondary education. Jobs Plus does follow them for 4 quarters, which is a year, to assist in either education or employment needs. So now I would like to introduce one of our model students that happens to be your new student champion, Anaí Valencia. Anaí is a student at Community Learning Center and has successfully completed our workshops, earned a couple of industrial certifications, and is in a paid internship at the Blatton Daycare right now. So.
Oh, we are honored to have her. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for presenting it. Like I mentioned, this has been several years at the Alt Ed program, and so these students, we're expanding the program. We're working with our college and career department here at KCSOS to broaden more opportunities for them to work beyond just KCSOS to other entities throughout Kern County.
Can you tell everybody where they're located?
Yeah, they're located at the Blanton Center, right off of Truxton Avenue. So all the students who are in the Alt Ed program have that service, and also in our satellite campuses as well. We work with those students in Delano and Taft and Lake Isabella and Mojave, you name it. So we work with all of the students. But This is a great program and has, the students that come in, they work with them on resume building. They have clothes for them to go do interviews. They do practice interview questions, interviews to get students ready and prepared. So this is a great opportunity for the students to get an opportunity to do nothing but their best and get a internship and then hopefully land a permanent career pathway and job as they exit high school.
And is there requirements for them to sign up for this Job Plus?
No, it's all students that are in the program. The students, Jose, you want to come back up and before I mess it up? The students then are identified that could become members of this program. So, Joe, go ahead and.
I forgot to ask, is there any questions? I'm so
Thank
sorry.
you. I was just going to ask.
I was
Al.
trying to fill in for you.
I
but
seen that. I go, oh,
apparently
I'm
it
going to
wasn't
go help him a
working.
little bit. Within the Jobs Plus program, it is alternative education. The barriers that they have to have would either be they're either probation, they're either have basic skill deficiency or something to be into the program. So that's why we have it in the alternative education. So within then that, we get their applications and go through ETR to do the rest.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes.
Did you bring coffee?
Did I bring coffee? No, but it is really the best coffee. They roast
that's
the
all I
coffee
got.
on Thursdays.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you again. We are now on 4.1 consent agenda, approval of graduation diplomas.
Move to approve. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion? Any opposed? So ordered, thank you. 4.2, general business, accept and file, that's 4.21, is accept and file Williams quarterly report. Dr. Mendenborough?
We have no findings at this time, and so it's just a normal, regular quarterly update for the board to
Thank
look
you.
at. Sorry.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion? Any opposed? So moved, thank you. And 4.22, accept and file the 2024 audit report for Grow Charter School.
And we have John Medina here. If you have any questions in regards to the annual audit report for Grow, we also have the audit report for Wonderful as well. So you can take both of those as an item or separate, but answer any questions, and John can entertain any of those.
Thank you. I think we'll take both of them in one motion.
The only comment I would make is that there were no audit findings, so both programs were found to be operating in compliance with all the state standards and requirements.
Thank you. Any questions? All those,
I do have a question. Sorry, a little late. I'm looking at the Wonderful quarterly report, the supplementary information, page 18. Just noticed that the COVID-19 ESSER funds are listed here. Just, can you refresh my memory on what that was, and do we have any more, and what's happening to that now?
If all the COVID ESSER funds are now expired, so
Okay.
districts last year, if they're being audited on it, it was just that all the expenditures adhere to all of the state and federal regulations for those, but that was the last year to expend all of them, so that, off the top of my mind, that would have been the ESSER 3 allocation. But there are very broad uses, all the way down from general operating costs to improving and closing the student achievement gaps. But that, in a nutshell, that's what those ESSER programs were for, and they're all sunset last year.
So when they expire, is there money left over, or do you mean we got to zero? We spent all that money?
There are some districts that, for some reason or another, did not spend that, and that's statewide. But for the most part, by and large, I believe I heard from the state, and there were upwards of 97% of all the ESSER dollars that were allocated to schools were spent.
Okay, and do we know what happens to the leftover? I mean, it doesn't sound like much.
The state recovers those funds, and they have a slightly longer timeline than we do, and it's on the state to utilize those dollars.
Oh, it goes back to them? Okay,
Correct.
I see, thank you.
any other questions? Motion?
So moved.
Are you making the motion?
Yes, ma'am.
We need a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion? Any opposed? So ordered, and we'll do that in one motion for both Grow and Wonderful. Thank you. 4.24, approval of resolution to the Kern County Bar Association for 2025 mock trial competitions.
This is just the annual resolution that allows the Kern County Bar Association to provide the mock trial for our students in Kern County.
Which is an excellent program.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any discussion? Any opposed? So ordered, thank you. And now we have a special presentation for Ms. Morales.
You can stand up. Then you could come out here. Here you go, Mary. For the last 6 months, we've had the joy of having Ms. Morales joining us as a student representative here at the Kern County Board of Education. She was a wonderful addition to the board and brought a lot of insight from the student's perspective, and that will continue on with our new student representative. But we wanted to present to her a resolution on behalf of the school, or the trustees of the Kern County Board of Education to her. So at this time, I'll let Trustee Little present her the resolution.
Did you want me to read it? Sure. Oh, great. Whereas, how do you say your first name? Like Violeta Marisol. Can I just call you Ms. Morales? Okay, thank you. Whereas Ms. Morales has served with distinction as a student representative on the Kern County Board of Education, providing invaluable insight in representing the interests and perspective of her students. And whereas her time as a student representative, Ms. Morales has demonstrated exceptional dedication, leadership, and commitment to the Kern County, to the educational community, contributing to the betterment of programs affecting students across Kern County. And whereas Ms. Morales has been a steadfast advocate for student voices, ensuring that the concerns and aspirations of her peers are heard and addressed by the board. And whereas her efforts have significantly enhanced the dialogue between students and board members, fostering a collaborative and inclusive environment. And whereas Ms. Morales has exemplified the values of service, integrity, and academic excellence, serving as a role model for her fellow students and as an inspiration to the entire educational community. Now therefore it be resolved that the Kern County Board of Education and the Kern County Superintendent of Schools hereby express their deepest appreciation and heartfelt gratitude towards Ms. Morales for her outstanding service as a student representative. And be it further resolved that this resolution be entered into the office official minutes of the Kern County Board of Education, and the copy be presented to Ms. Morales as a token of our esteem and her recognition for exceptional contributions, adopted this 17th day of December 2024.
Congratulations. Thank you very much. Do you have your family here? Is your family here? Mom, would you like to come up and take a picture? I'm known to put people on the spot all the time. You didn't read, the little tiny line at the bottom of the agreement was, "Mom gets me a picture."
Oh no, your phone's out of film.
She has been invaluable, a great light to us, and I've enjoyed her so much, and we're going to miss her tremendously. But I look forward to her new protege coming on, so looking for new things for our board too. And we have, now we're on point 6.1, report of, did I miss one?
Oh, the board member comments.
Oh, I'm sorry, are we on 5.1, board member comments? So start with Lori.
I'm glad I get to go first because I was going to thank Tita for being here, and it's been an absolute pleasure for me to witness firsthand the amazing, confident, strong woman, young woman that you are. And I remember when you were in 4th grade at Valley Oaks Charter School, and I've seen you just grow up, and I know we didn't see each other a lot between those times, but how awesome is it that we got reunited here in this boardroom? Who would have thought, right? So I just wanted to thank you for being here, and I'm excited for what God's going to do in your life. I see that you're a person of faith, and you have strong convictions, and so I'm excited to see what's next for you, and hopefully you come back and speak at the podium.
And bring us more treats.
Of course. Yeah, you've got many talents. And the other thing I wanted to say was after the presentation a couple months ago about the academic report in our schools, I've been thinking a lot about our curriculum and in our court and community schools, and I would like to see the curriculum. I would like to have a set of all the materials for specifically to start social studies and language arts, and the updated state standards, just so I can get a feel for what's going on in the classroom since we're talking academics, and I'd like to see that, please, Dr. Mendeborough.
So you like to see social studies and ELA?
Yep.
Starting with those
To start,
two?
uh-huh.
And then the standards that,
And the
the
standards.
California standards. Sure.
That would be awesome. Thank you so much. And that's it for me.
That's it. Thank you. Jim?
Yes, I wanted to, back in December, I attended a seminar that was held at Cal State Bakersfield with Shannon Grove and also two sergeants, Dustin Contreras, were putting on a presentation about the agencies here in Kern County that are responsible for reaching out to those people who are victims of child sex trafficking and labor trafficking. It's a rather broad scope. One thing I was surprised to find out was that Sergeant Contreras shared with me that while they can in fact go ahead and present some of the information that would aid students from falling victim to things like this, was only allowed to be discussed in the 9th through 12th grade classroom, only in high school. Sergeant Contreras said that he wanted to make sure that everybody was aware that the main targets for those who would seek to sex traffic children are looking for prepubescent children. Right now, that could be anywhere between 4th on up. So my understanding is that I think it's the Board of Education or the districts, some of the districts have not allowed any of this information to be brought in and shared. I believe that this is a topic of awareness that should really be raised, and that we should do something about it immediately, because we have seen that our county is not immune to those who would come in and exploit our children sexually, for those who would traffic people for labor reasons. We're dealing with people who do not have the sort of moral foundation or conscience that many people have when it comes to their children. Our children are in danger. And for them to say that the content was a bit too sexual for younger children seems to me to be, that's a bit of misplaced logic. So I would like to propose that I go ahead and be allowed to approach Senator Shannon Grove and also Sergeant Contreras and a couple of the other people from some of the agencies that provide those supports to come and give a presentation here to the board.
Do you have a time frame involved? Or?
Well, if we could do this by the next board meeting, that would be good. We could go ahead and discuss whatever limits we wanted to put on time or what information, but I really do feel that in this case, that this is something that should be brought to the attention of the public, because we can actually take a very, very proactive stance with this, and we can potentially save an awful lot of families an awful lot of grief.
So you're asking for that to be on the agenda for next month?
If that would be okay, I think it's a good idea.
Have you obtained approval for all of them, or did they say that they would come?
I have obtained approval from Sergeant Contreras, who said, anytime you call me, I'll be there. I haven't spoken to Senator Shannon Grove yet. I haven't reached out to the two other agencies that were also represented there. Actually, there were more than two. But we can put together a presentation that will go ahead and demonstrate exactly how much of a problem this is. And coming from a Kern County Sheriff's Officer, a sergeant, I think that the information would be quite valuable.
Well, I don't have any objection to that presentation. I think it's valuable and timely.
With the idea of being able to go down into the middle schools and have them talk about the things that could possibly happen. Because this is the biggest concern of Sergeant Contreras and of Senator Shannon Grove, that the younger children are not being made aware of this.
So it would just be a presentation to our board at this time?
And to whoever public showed up, yes.
Yeah, okay. I think that's acceptable.
Jim, have you reached out to Des Perkins? Shannon knows her very well. She has a foundation here. She was human trafficked.
Mm-hmm. I have not reached out to her yet, but I did get her contact information
Okay.
from Sergeant Contreras. She's one of the other people that I'm going to go ahead and call. And it's highly recommended that we do get Ms. Perkins involved, yes.
Okay.
So it will be on the agenda for next month?
So just to clarify, because I may have missed the first part, there's curriculum or there's the ability to teach this in schools at the 9th and 10th grade level, you said, yes?
9 through 12.
Okay, it's a 9 through 12 program. That's where they expose them to trafficking and things like that. But what you're suggesting is this board look at the opportunity to put this in the middle schools and the lower grades. Is that what you were
That's correct.
referring to?
Yes.
Okay, and so their presentation would be,
It would be geared for the younger children and the teachers of those primary
how
and
that
middle
can
school
be
districts.
implemented in the
Yes.
younger grades?
Mhm.
Okay. I just wanted to be clear. Thank you.
You bet.
That was a good question. Do you have a report, Julie?
Oh. Yes, I just want to say thank you to the public for always showing up and coming and speaking and sending your emails and comments. Your voices are heard. And I appreciate both sides of all the arguments. And so again, thank you. I do want to recognize, obviously, that the Los Angeles fires have been rather devastating. However, I am really proud to hear of the number of schools and the number of programs that have gotten on board to collect items and put together some really heartfelt programs for those families that have been displaced and their needs. So shout out to all those schools who are participating in clubs and things. I also want to say thank you to their student representative. She's very well spoken, and it's been a pleasure to have you, and we look forward to our new student representative. So yeah, thank you. And that's it.
Thank you. Lori?
Well, I just want to say Happy New Year. Also, thank you, Ms. Morales. It was a pleasure. Anani, welcome. We're looking forward to having you on board. Last night, I attended Kern High's board meeting, and I have a question. I'm not sure what we're allowed and not allowed, but a friend of ours, her daughter is a special needs daughter, and I don't want our public out here to take anything wrong, please. But she was approached by a club at their school that their parents did not approve of. And as they are proposing to the Kern High of having a parental notification for clubs, all clubs, whether it's a religious, political, LGBTQ+, that they have parent notifications or permission slips for clubs for special needs children, because some of these kids don't understand what's coming to them. No matter what kind of club it is, a lot of special needs kids cannot comprehend what that is. So I'm not sure what our board is allowed to do or propose, or do we even have clubs at our schools, or I wasn't sure what, because I know as far as our family with sports, we had to sign permission slips, get physicals, we coached, and all that kind of stuff. You have to have permission from your parents to be in band, flag, football, baseball, all that kind of stuff, where we were never, if my kids joined a club, they joined a club, But this was basically for special needs children.
Yeah, every school district has their own policies and procedures for extracurricular activities, whether it be clubs, sports, academic. Some districts will have permission slips for every single thing that they do. Some will do a blanketed permission slip. Some won't have any permission slips at all. Sports, usually they do because of liability purposes. But that's up to each governing board of the local school district of how they do it, and even what groups that they identify as needing permission slips for that nature.
All right, so then our board wouldn't do that then? Okay.
No, not for the current high school district.
Right, okay. Or for our schools?
Ours, we don't have any club
kind of clubs or anything
yeah,
like that?
yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Good question. Anything else, Lori?
No, just, that's it.
Joe?
Nothing from my area, but I would like to comment that, Jim, I think that's a great idea, having that presentation here.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to trainings for those types of cases, and maybe there is a way it could be sanitized so it could be told to junior high kids. I would like to hear what the parents think about that, so hopefully we have some good turnout from the parents, because it's hard to talk about that without talking about sex, but if there's a way it could be sanitized, and I think that would benefit the kids. On another note, Violeta Marisol, hope I didn't butcher your name.
You did a lot better than I did.
I really enjoyed having you here. Mary and I would look at each other in amazement over how articulate you have been and how well spoken, and it's clear that you are wise beyond your years and you have a bright future. So maybe we'll see you again. Maybe you'll show up and speak, or maybe you'll become an attorney one of these days, and I'll see you in court.
I told you.
So I think you'd be a great advocate in the courtroom. So with that said, good luck to you, ma'am. And is it Ana E. Valencia? We look forward to having you here. You got some big shoes to fill. Thank you.
What size do you wear?
No pressure, though.
Well, thank you all for coming. The Ten Commandments is a hot topic, and we are just fortunate to be able to be here, to discuss it, to be rational, to listen to our concerns, and see where we go from here. I am anticipating that it might be brought up again and sometime in the future. There is litigation going on, and several states are there's 18 states now that have joined that want to put the Ten Commandments in their schools. So, I understand your concerns, and I'm just saying that it may be brought up again, and if it does, we'll work through it as amicably as we have just now. So I thank you for your concerns again. What was I going to bring up? Oh, I thought I had some notes.
We could vote tonight.
No, we're not going to, it's not an action item for tonight.
Oh.
It has to be on the agenda for an action item. And I lost my notes for what, oh, I guess here's one of them. I know Greenfield 8th grade won their first team. They won first place for flag football. And that's great for Greenfield if you know how small that school is, so I'm so excited for them. Kentucky issued a nationwide block of Biden's Title IX, so I think that's great for all of their schools in the United States. And there was one more. Huh. Who knows? The U.S. have passed the bill banning transgender from women's sports, and it's called the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act of 2025. So those are important things that are going to be coming to our schools this year. And with that, I don't have anything else, and then we go to Dr. Mendenborough for his public comments.
Thank you. Couple
Oh,
of.
wait, hold on.
Go ahead.
Do we have comments from
Go ahead.
Ms. Morales?
It's all yours. Go for it.
No, you're next.
I understand that some things I say today might be forgotten or ignored because they don't fit with everyone's views, but I hope that you will still listen carefully. Many people here tonight on both sides of the argument haven't shown the respect we all deserve. Even my 6-year-old cousin has better manners than what I've seen tonight. As leaders and role models, you should inspire young adults and children to do better. Honestly, as a student, I am disappointed. It was said earlier that if we want to see change, we need to teach students good values. I agree. But tonight I haven't seen those values represented by many of you. It's time to remember that actions speak louder than words. We've heard concerns that the 10 Commandments represent religion and should be kept out of schools, but this isn't about making students follow Christianity or any religion. It's about learning history. I've studied Buddhism, Hinduism, and the teachings of Confucius in school. That never meant I was told to follow those beliefs. It simply helped me understand history and the world around me. Learning about the 10 Commandments would do the same. And I want to be clear about the commandments I believe could be shared in schools. Some speakers today reference commandments no longer used or misinterpreted their meaning. Let's be honest, many people don't fully understand the Bible or read it in context. Even I fail to understand it sometimes. For example, in Leviticus 19:28, it says not to tattoo yourself. Some think this means tattoos are sinful, but in that passage, people were marking themselves for other gods. God wasn't against tattoos. He was against worshiping other gods. That ties directly to the first commandment, I am the Lord your God, you shall not have other gods besides me. These commandments aren't about forcing beliefs on anyone. They're about teaching respect, honesty, and responsibility. Let's consider each one. Do not worship other gods. Love God with all your heart. Do not take God's name in vain. Use God's name with respect, not out of anger. Keep the Sabbath day holy, spending time honoring God and families on Sundays. Honor your parents. Show love, respect, and obedience to those who care for you. Do not kill. Respect life and care for all living things. Do not commit adultery. Respect your body and others. I'm sure we all want respect for our bodies, not to be looked at with bad intentions. Do not steal. Be careful with others' belongings and respectful of their property. Do not lie. Always tell the truth and avoid hurting others with your words. Do not covet your neighbor's spouse. Be grateful for the love in your own family. Do not covet others' belongings. Be thankful for what you have and avoid jealousy. These commandments aren't evil. They're about living in harmony with others. And no, I do not believe this is cherry-picking the Bible. If you read it fully, you'll see that God's instructions have changed over time. Before the 10 Commandments, there were 613 rules in the Pentateuch. When God saw those rules were too complicated, he simplified them into commandments we know today. And in Matthew chapter 22, verse 36 to 40, he also changed those commandments to even simpler ones, and those were just 2. Love God above all things and love your neighbor as you would love yourself. Dr. Fraser mentioned that many of us are not pushing religion. We're talking about understanding the commandments as historical values, and even if they were displayed in schools, they wouldn't force anyone to believe in anything. As Christians, we know that even God gives us the freedom to choose. He does not force us to follow him. According to staff writer, author of God Does Not Force Us to Love Him from the Hills Daily News, God does not force us to love him. The concept is strongly implied throughout the Bible, particularly in passages that highlights God's love and free will, such as John chapter 3, verse 16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life, which demonstrates God's love offered freely and not as a forced action. If just one student reads those words and feels inspired to be a better person, wouldn't that be worth it? The 10 Commandments are about basic values: honesty, respect, and kindness. These are things we all want to see in our schools and communities, regardless of faith. Even if we don't display the 10 Commandments, we should still teach about their history. They are just as important as any other historical teachings about Socrates, Confucius, or other major figures and philosophies. Some of you think we need to focus on helping students catch up academically. I 100% agree. Education is critical. Our students are falling behind and their test scores show it. But teaching respect, responsibility, and morals is just as important as math and science. A student who doesn't value or respect their family won't value education either. I also share concerns about how funds are being used. Just recently, I found out that the elementary my younger cousins attend, Alicante Elementary, which is located in Almont, had plans to remodel a library that was going to be destroyed in 2 years. I'm sure we can all agree that it's ridiculous. There are much better ways of spending those funds. But let's remember that history matters. The 10 Commandments are part of that history. Without understanding where we come from, how can we expect to know where we're going? So yes, we must improve education, but we must also care about teaching values and understanding the history that shaped our country. These conversations are worth having because they matter to many of us. And finally, I have a goodbye speech. It has been a true honor to serve as a student representative for the Kern County Superintendent of Schools. This experience has meant so much to me, though I wish I could stay until the end of the semester. But it's time for me to step away. When I first started, I didn't have much experience in politics or this kind of work, but during my time here, I discovered a real passion for making a difference. I hope that in some small way, I contributed to positive change while I was here. As I move forward in life, whether I become a filmmaker, news anchor, a mom, or something else entirely, I want to continue making a positive impact on the city, the state, and even this country. My goal is always to help others and stand up for the truth, no matter what challenges may come. To everyone here, thank you for welcoming me and giving me this incredible opportunity. I care deeply about all of you, no matter your beliefs, background, or faith. Everyone deserves love, respect, and kindness. I hope that in my future work, I can help spread that love and be the voice for those who need it. This isn't goodbye forever. If there's ever a time I'm needed back, I'm always ready to stand, ready to fight for the truth and what people deserve. Before I finish, however, I want to take a moment to welcome the new student representative to the board. Congratulations on stepping into this important role. Your voice matters, and I know you will have what it takes to leave your own unique impact on this board. Wishing you the very best of luck, enjoy the journey, embrace the challenges, and know that your contribution will help shape a better future for our schools and community.
Well said, thank you. You just blow me away. I
know.
Thank you.
Hit for
You're
distance.
so eloquent. And I, would you like to say anything tonight?
She said it all.
That was a bunt. That was a bunt, not hitting for distance.
That was good.
Well, thank you.
And you're expecting me to follow after that?
She gave you the option. of
She
going
gave me
first.
the option.
It happened to me last meeting, okay?
Well, I do want to thank Ms. Morales for her contributions to this, to being a member of the board. And you said it best, you contributed in a positive nature, and you will continue to soar as you continue to grow. And don't forget us, like Trustee Marcano said, hopefully we see you back here. Please feel free to always drop in. You are part of this family, so thank you. And we are anxiously waiting to see where you end up. There is a news reporter in the back who could give you some tips on being a news reporter if you want to go chit-chat with him. And but no, congratulations and thank you for being on this board.
Thank you.
And Mrs. Valencia, we are looking forward to having you join, and you get to be all solo next month, so there you go. We do look forward to having you on as part of this board, and we know that you're coming in, A, very excited, but B, you get to also put a footprint, and this is exactly as she mentioned, so congratulations to both of you. A couple of things for the board. First off, the fires in Los Angeles and Ventura and area. I've been in contact with the county superintendent there, Dr. Deborah Duardo, and she has mentioned I offered any services that Kern County can provide. She said that she will keep in contact with anything that they may need. Right now, they're still in the they don't know what they don't know type of phase. They're waiting to hear the state is relieving some pressures for schools as far as attendance and stuff goes. So they're getting services to the students as quick as possible. So
Do you
I'll
know
keep
how
you
many schools burnt?
they haven't got a full calculation yet. 30% of LA County schools have been affected by the fires. So whether that means they cannot return to their school sites or not, they don't know. Palisades lost one school, elementary school, and half of a high school. There's 5 charter schools, I believe, that were lost in Pasadena, and about a dozen or so in Palisades alone, charter schools, and plus many others with damage and stuff. So they're still trying to figure all that out. So I'll update you if there's anything that we are asked to help with. Just wanted to also let you know that February 1st is a teacher recruitment fair. So if anyone in your areas are asking about where do I go if I want to be a teacher, just send them to the Larry E. Ryder Center on February 1st. That morning, all the school districts in Kern County, majority of them will be there to look for and recruit teachers. Also, February 24th will be the KCSBA dinner. Some information will to come. This is the twice-a-year dinner that the board members attend. And then finally, I do want to reiterate for Jim on your presentation, it would be a very appropriate one. Schools currently have elements that they have been brought. Right now it's for high school for this type of topic. I know at the elementaries, junior highs, they do a lot with social media presentations with families. They bring law enforcement and everything, but nothing to this degree. And so it'd be good to have them come in, and then from there we can get in contact. We have a Safe School Coalition here in Kern County where we bring all our school districts together, and our office kind of coordinates safe school with them. We have law enforcement involved. We have everybody, key elements throughout Kern County. So this will be a good presentation to also talk with them, and then also can share with our superintendent so that they can have access to start bringing it into their districts if they so choose. So thank you for bringing this forward.
And I do have a question, Dr.
Sure.
Menabro, about the budget. Did you get any update
Oh,
on that?
thank you. Thank you. The governor came out with his January budget. For education right now, we are staying constant with what we had last year. It means there's no projected cuts. There is a COLA he's projecting at this point in time. Whether the COLA comes to fruition or not, we don't know. One thing that's important for us to understand is that the California education is required by the Constitution to take up at least 40% of the budget for expenses. So depending on how revenues come into the state and how they project, could change in the May revise. So the May revise is going to be very important. Then you have the non-98 side. Prop 98 is what funds all the schools in California. Then you have the non-Prop 98 side that are going to be dealing with some cuts. So you're going to have non-educational institutions within the state that are going to have to either maintain or have to have cuts going into next year so that they can balance their budget. So the education side is very happy right now because it's not any cuts at this point in time unless you're a district that's declining. But it's kind of staying flat. There are a few proposals, but nothing that's monumental or huge at this point in time. The one thing I will say is that the governor is proposing $117 billion budget towards education, but according to based on his revenue projection, we should be receiving $119 billion. So that is kind of out there of well, if we're supposed to be funded at 119, why are you projecting 117? And he's saying it's because he's not sure what revenues are going to look like. So I think we'll see something change by May if revenues don't come to fruition. The federal and the state has delayed tax collections for the Los Angeles and Ventura counties. So everyone who lives in those counties do not have to pay their taxes till later. That is going to add another wrinkle to the budget that they have to look at, because LA County alone takes up about 30% or about 35% of the entire state income. So if they don't know what that income looks like, it's going to offset how we're going to look at education. But right now, there's no projected cuts or reductions to the educational systems in California.
Is our fiscal in July? for the county, for our budget?
All school districts have to adopt, and the county offices all have to adopt by July. So the governor, so how the budget works in California is the governor comes out with what we call a January governor's budget. And then from January till May, everybody looks to see what it looks like, or how it is, that what he's projecting, he or she, whoever's the governor projecting, is that gonna come to fruition? And that's when the legislature, they go and battle out back and forth of what they want, what they don't want. Then come May, what we call the May revise, that's really what we budget and do everything on. So once we know what the May budget will look like, then every school district and county office will present a budget in June based on what that may. So some years it pretty much stays the same, and there's other years where it's completely different come May. And then based on that, May is what we operate the next fiscal year.
Okay.
Dr. Mendenborough?
Yes.
I know this would be a really outlandish projection, but do we see an increase in the population, subsequently the student population here in Kern County because of people who might possibly be displaced from the tragic fire areas?
That was one of the discussions that I had with the county superintendent of Los Angeles when the Paradise Fire a couple of years ago, well, more than a couple of years ago, but when that happened, many students relocated. When I was a district superintendent, we had roughly 15 to 20 students, not a lot in comparison, but coming from that area down here, there was a lot. So we are anticipating some relocation. We don't know if that's a permanent relocation or not. She says there hasn't been any conversations from her districts that there are families that are going to be relocating. Right now, they're all being what they're calling displaced and reassigned to other school sites. LA has had a huge decrease in enrollment over the last few years. People have been leaving the city, and so, or the county, and so they have a lot of capacity at existing school sites. They just don't know where those schools or how far parents are willing to drive to put their children. So the next few months will be very telling.
And how do they try to make up the education for students that are affected?
Well, more than likely because of all the remote capabilities the school districts have. Over the last few years, they will probably put a lot of students on that platform if they cannot get into a school site or into a in-person environment, at least during this immediate time period.
Thank you. Anything else, Dr. Mendenborough?
No, other than that, thank you for everything.
Anything else from the board?
Nope.
Okay, our next meeting will be February 11th, 2025, already the second month of this year. And thank you, everybody, for coming. We are adjourned.